This is Pam Felix. I listened to your video about your miscarriage, and my heart really went out to you because I know what it's like to lose a baby. September 16th, 1991, I lost my daughter. But on a more positive note, September 16th, 2007, I gained a grandson. So I know that God can turn things around for us when we have something bad happen in our lives. My grandson was due October the 3rd, became on the same date that my daughter passed away. Her name was Sarah Michelle, and Sarah means princess, and Michelle means who is like God. So on her tombstone, I have princess who is like God. And how she died in a daybed, and I'm going to show you a picture of that daybed if you give me a second here. So this is a picture of the daybed that she passed away in. And I found her body down in this area, but it went away. It was at the other end of the bed is where she died. If I can get that picture back. But anyhow, I found her between the mattress and the bars of the daybed with the bar resting on her neck. And when I found her, she was already cold and stiff. And she was 18 months old, almost 19 months old when she passed. When I found her, I was downstairs nursing my youngest daughter when my oldest daughter came and told me, "Mommy, I can't find Sarah." And Jana was 3 at the time. So I went upstairs to find her, and that's how I found her, down between the mattress and the bars of the daybed with the bar resting across her neck. And I knew when I touched her, I would know if she was alive or dead, and she was cold and stiff. And I ran over to my mother-in-law's room screaming, and she went into the room and she started screaming. And my ex-husband was downstairs doing his morning devotions, and he went upstairs and he grabbed her up out of the daybed and started praying for her and commanding her spirit to come back into her body in Jesus' name. And when he was doing that, I had a picture of her sitting on Jesus' lap, shaking her head no and saying no. And she was in that no stage, at that age. And I was going to tell him, she probably don't want to come back. But I didn't tell him. And after the funeral, my mother-in-law told me she had a vision of Sarah sitting on Jesus' lap, shaking her head no and saying no. And I had a lot of faith that God could bring her back, because the night before we were watching Gloria Copeland on Walking on Water. In fact, the last night that she lived, we went to a restaurant and she had ice cream, and she loved ice cream. And so I didn't know that night would be the last night I would put my baby to bed. A little bit about the room that she died in. We had paranormal activity in that room in the past, but we thought that the negative energy was gone. When I was engaged to be married to my ex-husband, that was my room. And one night I fell asleep in that room, and I saw my body resting on the bed, and I saw a pillow laying beside my leg, and it lifted up over my face, and I couldn't breathe. And I was trying to wake myself up to rebuke this negative energy, because I knew if I didn't, I would die. And I managed to tell it to leave. And I could feel the bed shaking. Like when you would get in the bed, this little lamp would rattle and the bedboard would shake when you got in the bed. And I could feel that in the dream. And so when I woke up and turned the light on, I saw that pillow laying beside my leg, and I don't remember that pillow being there. And it scared me, and I went to my ex-husband, who was my fiance at the time, and told him what was going on. And so he told me to stay and sleep with him that night, not to go back in that room, because a lot of people have been attacked in that room. So, my mother-in-law came to us. We didn't say anything about this. And she said something tried to smother her that night. And she thought it was the dog laying on her face. And she told it to leave. And of course it came to me. So we prayed over that room. And then when we got married, that room became our living room because we were living with my in-laws. And then I had my oldest daughter, and that became her room. And then we moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma to go to Bible school. And then when we moved back, that's when that horrible thing happened with my second daughter, Sarah. She slept in that room like for 20 days with my oldest daughter. In fact, before she died, she gave me a scare one day. She's taking a nap, and I went in there to check on the kids, and she had red lipstick all over her body and all over the place. And I thought it was blood. I thought she did something to herself. It was red lipstick that she found. And I don't know if that was like a warning sign that she shouldn't be in that room. But, of course, the day that she died, my mother-in-law went down to a pastor's house. 2 houses down was a pastor. And she told him that her granddaughter passed away and that her son was determined to raise her from the dead. So he came up, and he also prayed for her. But he told my mother-in-law to go ahead and call 911, and the fire people came, and I thought I was going to get a miracle. I thought, they're going to do CPR on her, and she's coming back to life. Because you watch all these 911 shows where that's what they do. But she was, rigor mortis already set in. And the firemen told me, honey, she's dead. There's nothing I can do. And I was like, can't you just do CPR and I'll pray and believe God for a miracle? He said, she's dead. She's not coming back. And so there was a young fireman that was there. He really broke down and cried. He went outside and was leaning, I think, on a tree or maybe the fire truck. I don't remember. And he was crying. I mean, it really got to him. And so, the whole family came over. I mean, they took her body away. And it was just a very sad time in my life. We listened to this Kenneth Copeland teaching on grief being from the devil. So I wasn't even allowed to cry. I had to cry all by myself. I wasn't allowed to cry in front of my husband or family. I would take walks and I would cry because this man told us that grief is of the devil and that you shouldn't grieve for the people that die. And I think there's a healthy period of grief, and then, grief can, then there's an unhealthy type of grief where I heard a story where this lady, her fiance died, and she never got over it. She just stayed in her wedding dress for so many years and stopped living her life completely. Well, that would be the unhealthy grief. So I take a lot of walks by myself and cry by myself because I didn't have the support of my mother-in-law and husband and father-in-law. And his sisters tried to intervene to take me alone so I could cry and get it all out. But, he wouldn't let them come near me. And I remember one day I was walking with my daughter, and it was around Halloween, and it was a popular thing to decorate people's yards with tombstones. And I remember this neighbor saying, how you like my graveyard? And I said, well, that's not something you should ask a grieving mother. But, God helped me through the whole thing. I mean, I know she's in heaven, and I know I'll get to see her someday. And, he took a lot of the pain away. I mean, every now and then I think of her and I feel sad, but I know he took a lot of the pain away. And, I know I'll get to see her again someday. But going back to that room, I'm going to call it the blue room because it was painted blue. So after Sarah died, my youngest daughter almost choked to death on a feather, and my mother-in-law had to do the Heimlich on her. And then the day after my oldest daughter's birthday, when she turned 4, she almost died in that room, and we had to take her to Children's Hospital, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I woke up hearing my oldest daughter gasping for air, and I ran and I got her out of that room, and we took her to Children's Hospital, and they had to put her on oxygen. So at that point, we decided that nobody was going to sleep in that room. It was like anybody that slept in that room, that spirit would attack them and take their breath away. So I really believe that an evil spirit killed my daughter. I don't know if, I know you're a demonologist, so I don't know if spirits are strong enough to pick up a baby and push him down in between the mattress and bars of a daybed and just like holding them and let them strangle on the bar or not. But I really believe that's how she died. And a lot of family members, they kept saying that they were seeing her in that room dead. And so my husband and my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, they went in there and they start praying over that room. And the Holy Spirit showed them where the spirit was attached to religious items in that room. Like there was a big picture of the Last Supper over the hanging on the wall above the daybed, and the Holy Spirit showed my sister-in-law that there was a demon attached to that picture, and there was all kind of Catholic statues that this spirit was attached to. So they got rid of all that, and they told that spirit to go back where it came from. And a lot of these items belong to my husband's grandmother. She was a devout Catholic, but we think she was also into witchcraft. And she was in a nursing home, and that very same day that they told that spirit to go back where it came from, she threw a horrible fit in the nursing home, and they said they could smell the smell of death on her, you know, and they called my mother-in-law to tell her about that. They had to restrain her and everything. She threw a horrible fit. I really think there was some witchcraft involved. Downstairs where my husband and I slept, that was her room, and she used to like a man's voice would talk through her sometimes when she used to be alive, and she talked about Father Al. She thought Father Al wanted to marry her, and he was some kind of priest that she knew, and she looked up in the corner of the room and talked to Father Al. And my husband cast that spirit out, and then she stopped doing that. But we think she was, you know, possessed, you know. So I think there was a lot of spirits in that house. And before we moved back in with my in-laws, I told my husband we wasn't supposed to move in that house. I told him that we were supposed to stay in Oklahoma and you know, have faith that God would provide for us. But his parents were supporting us while we were going to Bible school, and he just gave up and said, we're going back and we're going to start a ministry. And I really felt like he was being disobedient to God. And I told him, you know, if you don't listen to God, something bad could happen. And he didn't listen to me. And I feel like if he would have just listened to me, my daughter would never passed away in that house. In the past, I have written to the new owners of the house to let them know that my daughter passed away there, but I never heard back from them. I tried several attempts to contact them, let them know that she died in that particular room of the house. I even drawed out a map of the house to show them the room that she died in, but never heard back. But I just wanted to let you know that you're not the only one that's lost your child. I'm one of those moms that lost her baby. It is a hard thing to go through. Sometimes I wonder what she would have been like. I got a reading from a friend who had a couple near-death accounts where she can contact spirits, and she told me that Sarah grew up in heaven, and I had a prophet also confirm with this friend of mine that she went to school and she's really educated and highly advanced over there, and very beautiful young woman. And I shared some pictures of my other daughters with my friend Sharon, and she picked up the one daughter that she said that she looked very similar to. Anyhow, I just recently revamped one of my Facebook accounts. What are you doing, Lilith? I just revamped one of my Facebook accounts and named it Sarah Michelle Felix. in dedication of her. And there I'm going to share a lot of near-death testimonies of people who've been to the other side, and just like really educate people on heaven. So I just wanted to share Sarah's story with you to bring maybe some kind of comfort to you that, you know, this happens to a lot of people. And actually, the police officer that came that day also lost a child between a wall and a mattress, a small child. And he was the officer that came that day to investigate the case. So it happens a lot. You know, they always talk about the crib that you should put your baby in, but they never talk about the toddler bed. And so, you know, I like to let a lot of parents know, and I do this on her birthday and on the birthday going into heaven, about how dangerous day beds are. But if you have a little one, or you know of anybody who has small children, please let them know that day beds, especially the middle bar day beds, are very dangerous for children. I mean, because those mattresses do move, and you can get probably like a baby doll in between that mattress and bars of that day bed, and it can be very dangerous. Anyhow, again, this is, oh, wait a minute. This is the day bed again that my daughter passed away in. She was in between, oh, hold on. Anyhow, this comes very close to the day bed that she died in. And she was in between the mattress and the bars of the day bed, and one of these bars was resting on her throat. And that's how she died. And so if you can, in honor of Sarah Michelle, if you can pass a word about how dangerous day beds are, I really appreciate that, especially if it could save another child from dying a horrible death like my daughter died. But I know she's in heaven. I know I'll see her again. And that's the greatest joy that a parent has, that someday they'll get to see their loved ones on the other side. So I just wanted to share my story with you. And I've been also watching your videos, and I really enjoy your videos. And I enjoy listening to your information. I may not always 100% agree on everything you say, but there's a lot I am very open to. I am a very open-minded Christian. I do strongly believe in God and Jesus, but I do think there's a lot of flaws in the Bible, and I think there is a lot of flaws in Christianity. I think there's a lot of truth in Christianity, but I think there's a lot of false teaching as well. I don't think any religion is perfect, and I don't believe the Bible is perfect. I think there's a lot of good things in the Bible, like love your neighbor as yourself, you know, do unto others as you would want to be treated. There's a lot of good things, but then there's a lot of twisted things. And I think the Bible can be abused and worship instead of God. So there's a lot of things I do agree with you with, and I enjoy your videos, and I hope that you, this brings some kind of comfort to you in the loss of your own child. Thank you for watching my video.